and welcome back to my channel with a new video. This is Nora and that's my cat Sushi. So I'm gonna do this video since I got asked a lot by a lot of people about this specific subject, about dialects, about formal Arabic, and it makes me happy when someone asks me about Arabic because it's really nice if someone shows any interest in my native language. If you don't know, I'm Lebanese, and I'll later do some videos about Lebanon since I'm going there actually in a few days. The situation is not great there, but that's gonna be another video to talk about. I'm gonna talk about the history of Arabic and about the dialect and which dialect you can learn, which is the closest to the formal Arabic. So if you don't know, Arabic is the fifth most spoken language. It's actually a lot of countries do speak Arabic. If you don't know, all the Middle East, of course, and then you have of course the Arabian Peninsula. There a lot of North African countries do speak Arabic, so that's at least like 10-15 countries that do speak Arabic. So that's why it's very important. If you want to speak Arabic and learn it, you can actually be able to communicate with more than 10-15 countries, and that's a big deal. But it's a bit tricky. So it's not like you go learn Japanese or you go learn French or you go learn whatever language and then you're good to go. No, with Arabic it's actually a bit trickier, because when you hear about Arabic, you're going to be taught formal Arabic, which is called Fusha. The Fusha is the language that we use in news and newspapers and in the Quran, of course, and in books. Whatever book, you will read it in Fusha or formal Arabic. But when it comes to communicating with people, the people of the country, you're not gonna be quite talked to in formal Arabic. You're gonna be talked to in their dialect, because apparently formal Arabic is a bit too hard to communicate in day-to-day life. Every country now has their own dialect. So if I'm in Lebanon, we have the Lebanese dialect. It's still Arabic, but what is different, that some words here and there, the accent, how we say some letters, it can be different. If you are never exposed to this dialect, it's gonna be a bit tricky or hard for you to understand if you just know the formal Arabic. So a lot of people would ask me which is the closest dialect that I can learn to the formal Arabic, and that's gonna be the video that talks about that and the differences in every and each dialect to formal Arabic. And yes, in schools in every country, speaking Arabic country, we get taught formal Arabic. We don't get taught the dialect that we speak between each other. We get taught in schools all formal Arabic that is found in news and newspapers and then the Quran. But when it comes to socializing with people and talking every day today, we just use the dialect. It's gonna be very weird if you go to someone and start speaking Fusha, which is formal Arabic. It's very strange. They're gonna look at you weirdly. But if they know that you're a foreigner, they're probably gonna speak formal Arabic back to you. Almost everyone speaks formal Arabic since it is taught in school. Some people do speak it better than others. I mean, it just depends how good you were in Arabic in school, right? Some people were just not interested in that and they didn't want to put any effort, so they're gonna have some hard time speaking to you in formal Arabic, because some dialects can be quite different from the formal Arabic. So I'm gonna talk to you about the history of Arabic first, just to give you an idea about Arabic. So Arabic, if you don't know, is a Semitic language, which means all the languages that came from the Afro-Asiatic are called Semitic. So that what is also a Semitic language. Example, there is Hebrew. That's why we have a lot of words in common between Arabic and Hebrew, because they're both Semitic language. They have a common language. So, for example, in Arabic we do say salam, and in Hebrew they say shalom. So it's pretty. They have we and Hebrew have a lot of similarities, and it's actually pretty fun. I tried to learn some Hebrew, but I needed someone to help me out. Arabic has not been around in ancient times. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's a new language, but it is not an ancient language. And of course, every language has developed from something. So Arabic, of course, is an evolving language. It came from something. A lot of people assume that this language the origins of this language came from the southern of the Arabian Peninsula, but recent researches actually say the opposite is true. They seen a lot of clues that the Arabic language is originated in Jordan and Syria specifically. With the earliest one is around 200 BC. People there in Jordan and Syria, they spoke in Safavidic languages. You're gonna see some similarities in the speaking. You have to know that there is some similarities between those languages in Jordan and Syria and Arabic. Those were the first clues that Arabic is evolving. And later on, there is people that were called Nabatean. So Nabatean people, if you look at, I think they're just in Jordan mainly, or Syria in this area. They used to travel a lot from what I read. And if you look at their writing and scripts, it's actually getting really similar to Arabic. The language is evolving more and more to what we know now, Arabic, the formal Arabic, the Fusha. So those Asian languages were not really the Arabic that we know of now. They're just the ancient form of the Arabic that is now the formal Arabic. Still in their baby phases. So this was found in an area called Haran. And if you look at how the script looks, it is actually getting pretty similar to how formal Arabic is now. The Quran was written in that formal Arabic, the Fusha, and from that on, everyone started speaking Arabic. The Arabs took a lot of other countries, and now they speak Arabic. And that version of Arabic stuck because, you know, the religion is linked to this language. So it didn't really evolve that much afterwards. It stayed the formal Arabic that we know now because this religion is written in that form of Arabic. So people didn't want to change it. People wanted to keep it that way. But if you look at every country, people are kind of evolving it. Now every country is speaking their own dialect because they feel maybe it is a bit hard to speak formal Arabic to each other in their country. So they created their own easy form of this Arabic. I'm gonna tell you which Arabic is the closest one in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people. In my opinion, I used to find the Levantine, which is Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Palestine. I used to find Levantine countries very similar to the Fusha. But a lot of people still, they agree with me online, but a lot of people would also say that the Khaliji dialects is also very similar to the Fusha. The Khaliji dialect, the countries that speak the Khaliji dialect are Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. So I'm gonna talk about each and every dialect, and you can decide from your opinion which one you want to learn, if you want to learn any dialect. I recommend watching this video if you're still lost. I'm gonna start with the Levantine. The Levantine, like I said, are the countries including Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Palestine. So of course I'm gonna speak more about Lebanon because I'm Lebanese. I'm from Lebanon, and actually Lebanese dialect is pretty close to the people from Jordan. The Jordanese dialect, the Palestinian dialect, and the Syrian dialect are kind of pretty close. So if I speak to a Syrian person, I'll probably understand, not probably, I'll understand everything. I've spoken to a lot of Syrians before, and they speak actually exactly like us. Maybe the accent is a bit different. It's like comparing the north to the south. So New York speaking to a person from Texas. Of course, they have a bit of a different accent, but of course they're gonna understand each other perfectly. So it's kind of like that between Lebanon and Syria. They have a bit of a prolongated accent, and people from Jordan, people from Lebanon also understand each other. I had a friend from Jordan at university. She actually really spoke very similar to how I spoke, so we understood each other really fine. From what I heard, she told me a lot of people from Jordan watch Lebanese series, maybe, and they're picking it up more. So their dialect is, especially in the city, is more transforming to the Lebanese dialect. Apparently, a lot of people from a lot of Arabic countries do watch Lebanese series. I do not, though. It's not my cup of tea. It's like drama, real life problems, not my thing. That's not what I like to watch, but it's actually a lot of people like that. And apparently a lot of people are watching it, and they're learning the Lebanese dialect from those series. Well, also Palestinians, maybe it's a bit more different, but I don't see a big difference. We still understand each other perfectly. So I'm gonna give you the differences between the Fusha and Lebanese. So the letter that we changed, there's a letter in the Fusha that is Qaf, like the word qalil, which means little or bit. We say alil. So the Qaf letter is transformed to a sound. So every word that has the Qaf sound, we transform it to a sound. Another example, like qamar, which means moon, is transformed to amar. That's, I think most of Levantine dialects do that. And we have, of course, because Lebanon was taken by the French at some point. I know we've been taken by every country in the world, I feel like. We do have some words in French that we use, like we don't say elevator in formal Arabic, which is masad. We don't use that. We use ascenseur, which is ascenseur in French. That means elevator. So we have some French words that we use. More than 50-60% of the people there do speak French. So a lot of people do use some French words here and there. I've heard a lot of people that would say like Lebanese people do like to imitate to the West. No, we were taken by, I mean some people do, no, some people do, but Lebanese people were taken by the French people, so of course we're gonna be influenced by some of their words. Move forward. So those are like some of the differences between the Fusha and the Lebanese dialect. We have some basic words that are not existent also in the Fusha. For example, what in Fusha is mada, in Lebanese dialect is shu. That's pretty different. But we still, of course, we have a lot of words in common with Fusha. For example, how are you in Fusha is كيف حالك or كيف حالك, depends if you're talking to a girl or a boy. In Lebanese is kifik or kifak, so it's like the simplified version. Those are the Levantine countries. I'm gonna go to the second one, that is the Khaliji dialect. Of course, they don't speak the same dialect, but all those countries are called, their dialect is called Khaliji dialect. There are some differences, of course, between people in Qatar and people in Saudi Arabia. They do speak a bit differently, but I think it's more close to the Levantine. Like, all the Levantine countries do speak similar. It's a bit different, but they do speak more similar than other countries. The Khaliji dialect is, I would say, is also very close to the Fusha. A lot of people would agree that the Khaliji dialect is the closest to the Fusha, and a lot of people would agree that the Levantine dialect is the closest to the Fusha. In my opinion, both are pretty damn similar. I don't, like, every time I would see some similarities in Khaliji that we don't have in Levantine countries, but the opposite is true. I would see some similarities in Levantine countries that Khaliji people do not have. So I would say they have some changes to some letters too. So the qaf, apparently no one likes the qaf sound. The qaf letter is not liked in Arabic countries. So the qaf sound in a lot of Khaliji dialect and countries, it's pronounced as g sound. So I'll say this example again is the qamar, which means moon. It is transformed as gamar. So every q sound is g sound. They have some random ch sound, which I'm not sure how it was introduced. It's like saying how are you, they say shlonich. The ch sound at the end is not, you can't find it in the Fusha. Oh yeah, they have that ch sound that is a bit confusing to me. Some words they have it different, but some words are pretty damn close to the Fusha. Oh, we go further. We have the Egyptian dialect, which means Egypt. Let's start with Egypt. Egypt. Here you get a bit further from Fusha. It's still close, pretty close I would say, but it's a bit further in my opinion. Some people wouldn't agree, and those are Egyptian people, and I've seen some Egyptian people claim that Egypt has the closest dialect, which I don't fully agree. We have also that qaf sound, they don't like it. It is also transformed to a sound like Levantine countries. Like I said, the qamar, like the moon again, is called amar. And they don't have the jim letter, which is the j sound. So I would give an example, jamil, which means beautiful or handsome. I would say handsome. It is pronounced gamil, so every j sound is transformed to g sound. If I speak as a Lebanese person, if I speak to an Egyptian person, I would understand them fully, not because it's like the Fusha, it's because I was raised to watch, let's say, Egyptian series. Egyptian series they were very popular in Lebanon. I don't think they are as popular anymore, but I was raised to watch those, so I'm pretty used to the Egyptian dialect. I used to love a lot of Egyptian movies, especially the comedy one. I love their comedy, the old ones. They have really old comedy movie that I love. They have plays that I still watch religiously, especially in holidays, which actually there is a holiday in a few days. Happy Eid if you're Muslim, by the way. That's the Egyptian dialect. We as Lebanese people, we do understand them, and I think most Egyptians, they understand us. When it comes to Sudan, I don't have tons of knowledge about the Sudanese dialect. I had a Sudanese acquaintance, let's say, and sometimes, not all the time, I would understand mostly what he would say to me, but sometimes I would just stop for a bit trying to take in what he said and try to understand what he said, and there are a few words that I would just not understand. But I would understand what the idea behind his sentence, you know. So let's move on to Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. Those are a lot. Most of them they are influenced by the French, because if you don't know, Morocco is very influenced by the French. They were taken by France for quite a while, and most of the Maghrebi dialect is kind of similar to French. They do speak French, most of them. I would say from all those countries that I mentioned, Morocco is the furthest one from the Fusha. I would say it's very different. If I listen to someone from Morocco, I would say he's not speaking Arabic anymore. So I have a Moroccan friend, and it is pretty hard to understand. He gets frustrated a lot that he understands me, but I don't understand him. And he's claiming that I should understand him, but what is true that Levantine countries do have a lot of similarities between our dialect and Fusha. So that's why he probably understands me way more than I understand him. Plus, like I said, Lebanese series are being aired in a lot of Arabic countries. So people are watching that and they're learning our dialect also. So that's why a lot of people would understand us, and if they're far from the Fusha, we can't understand them. Moroccan series, I never really watched one, so I'm not really familiar with the Moroccan accent. But the few times that I listened to them, couldn't understand anything. I'll probably talk to them in French. Talking to French would be actually an amazing solution, because I can't understand their dialect at all. If you don't know, Moroccans, they are also very influenced with the Amazighi language. If you don't know, the native people in Morocco are called Berber. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. The Berber were actually, before the Arabs, took over. So also their dialect is very influenced by Amazigh language. That's why it's pretty different from the Fusha. Tunisia is also Tunisian people, I would say it is a bit closer to the Fusha than the Moroccan dialect, but it's still pretty hard for me to understand them. I remember one time a Tunisian gentleman came up to us, me and my Palestinian friend, we were talking, and he came up to us and he asked us something. He wanted to know where he can smoke in the university, because there is a specific area that you can only smoke there. And we couldn't understand him at all. I think he repeated himself more than 5 or 6 times. And at the end, we understood him because he was doing those hand signals. So it was pretty hard for us to understand. I wish I talked to him in French. I forgot that they spoke French, but I think most Tunisians do speak French. So yeah, Tunisians, Moroccans, also people from Libya, I don't think I would understand them that well. It will be pretty hard for me to understand. That is because they're a bit further from the Fusha. I mean, they're a bit far from everyone, from everyone in the Arabian Peninsula. So that's why their dialect is a bit different than other people. So yeah, conclusion, I would say, in my opinion, Levantine and Khaliji dialect are the closest to the Fusha. You can still learn other dialects. You're free to learn if you love the sounds of their dialect. For example, Moroccans do have a nice sounding dialect. But I think one of the reasons also that I don't understand them that well, because they speak a bit rather faster than us. We Lebanese are known to be more chill and laid back when we speak. And then some Khaliji or even Moroccans do speak faster, and it's a bit hard to catch the word sometimes for us. Maybe they're saying a Fusha word, but it's hard to catch it. don't get me wrong, I love Morocco. This is the only Arabic country that I wanted to visit, and I still want to visit. And I wanted to visit with my dad. Fortunately, he passed away. My dad used to understand their dialect pretty well because he lived in Morocco for, I think, 10 years or something like that, maybe more. So he understood their dialect, but and we had a plan to go, actually, before the pandemic happened. We had a plan to go visit Morocco, and their food is amazing, by the way. Just saying, I don't have anything against Morocco, but I'm just saying the facts. That is my peace of mind. If you like this video, if you found it helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel, like this video. I do videos about random shit, so if you like that, subscribe. And thank you for watching this video. I'll see you soon. Maybe next time I'll see you, it's in Lebanon. I'm not sure. We'll see. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye.